Welcome. Welcome to the Red Hot Mic. I am your host, G. Alfred Palmer. Come on in this house. Get ready. Pick up that phone. Come on in this house. We're getting ready to get serious tonight. Come on. My co-host, Haley Lamar, holds my hat for me. Let's do this.
Pick up the phone.
Come on. It's Red Hot Mic. Come on in this house. G. Alfred Palmer. This toast is for you.
Pick up the phone.
Toast to the most. It's for you. Come on.
Pick up the phone.
Welcome to the Red Hot Mic. Starting a little late tonight, but we're here. I had to come tonight, and I'm sure that you know why. It's been a very tumultuous 24 hours, and I'm really looking forward to this time together because I really have something to say. And I know it's not going to hit everybody the right way. Some people are going to get upset about it. But it's that time again for us to ruminate, elevate, and to activate. It's time for us to expand. It's time for us to elevate. And it's time for us to extend. Welcome to another edition of the Red Hot Mic. I am your host, G. Alfred Palmer. And here's to a toast to you once again. And I am excited about this session. I'm not even going to go into much music tonight because we need to get right to it. Because there are some things that have occurred in the last 24 hours, and we need to talk about it. I'm not even going to do an intro tonight. We're going to go straight to it. Now, listen, I'm calling it the entanglement of embarrassment at the Oscars. That's right. The entanglement of embarrassment at the Oscars. I'm going to get rid of the lights. Because this is, the truth of the matter is, I've been talking about what I'm going to talk about tonight. And so it leads right into what has happened at the Oscars last night. We all know that Chris Rock had made a joke concerning Jada Pinkett Smith. and it was something to the effect of looking forward to the film of G.I. Jane Part 2. Now, I mean, some people are going to have some issues with me tonight because um, the perspective that I'm coming from, my perspective is going to be a masculine one, and it's not going to be a feminine one. And that's because I'm not feminine. We have a lot of men who have feminine traits, and they act more feminine than they are, and they do as masculine. They have a tendency to um, relate more with the feminine side than they do with their own masculinity. These are enemies of the state. They're against the very nature of themselves and their own best interests. These are not men. These are males, and some even boys. There's a difference between boys, males, and men. And it's time, I told one of my patients, it's time to stop being a boy. It's time to stop acting like a boy or thinking like a boy, and stop acting like a male and thinking like a male, and start acting like and thinking like a man. And there's a difference. And the difference is what I've been talking about for the last several sessions, and that is the elements of human development: mental development, cognitive development, emotional development, philosophical development, intellectual development, psychological development, physiological development, and chronological development. And it's because of these, or the lack of these, that what we're seeing and what we're experiencing is people, regardless of what their station in life, still not being able to elevate to a place of manhood, but are males who are operating from an undeveloped or underdeveloped human psyche, developmental processes. And so what we're seeing is people who are lacking emotional development get caught in their feelings, or people who lack intellectual development get caught in the wrong paradigm, or people who are trying to release themselves from prior cognitions and operating from those cognitions. Now, I've been listening to a lot of folks, and I've been doing a lot of writing, and some of you know that, concerning the situation that occurred last night. And you have to understand there's a difference between a boy, a male, and a man, a girl, a female, and a woman. And what we've done is we've looked for celebrities, we've looked for political figures, we looked for entertainers to provide for us the very thing that we are supposed to provide with the Creator's help for ourselves. Now, last night at the Oscars, we demonstrated, or I should say, we experienced the demonstration of malehood and manhood. Now, understand this. Understand this. Chris Rock is a comedian. He was at work. He was doing what they paid him to do. He was on his job. Now, you've been on your job, and there's been people who didn't like the way that you operated or functioned on your job, but you did your job because that's what they were paying you to do. Chris Rock was doing what he was paid to do. Now, I'm a firm believer that one of the last free areas of liberty that we have in this country is comedians. Comedians have the ability to exercise their freedom of speech. Yet what I'm seeing now is a deliberate attack on the freedom of speech. You can't say things that are going to upset people. You can't say things that are going to emotionally, because so many people are operating by their emotions. They have not developed emotionally. And because they haven't developed emotionally, they're in their feelings about things that weren't even directed toward them. And if they were, it was just in Chris Rock's situation, I believe it was just unjust. It was just a joke. It was just what he was paid to do. He had also talked about other people, but no one did, and I acted and reacted the way that Jada and Will Smith did. No one, because they understand what humor and what stand-up and what comedians do. They give jokes, and those jokes are to help us to first face reality, because a lot of it is really truth-based. But at the same token, much of it is an escape from reality, the tensions and the stressors of life. To be able to laugh at yourself or a situation like yours. It's not about taking it personal because you're in your emotions, because you lack the cognitive development to understand paradigmically that this is not who you are. And the joke is just that, a joke. I mean, we were always told, if the shoe fits, wear it. But if it doesn't, let it fly, man. But so what we're seeing last night, what we saw is some folks that got caught up because they were operating from a paradigm of male and femalehood. Now, I read Will Smith's book that just came out several months ago. And I have to admit, it was a strange book. It was a book that had some really strange things to say in it. Things that were I couldn't grasp. But I mean, that it wasn't for me. That's all to it. It wasn't meant for me. But one of the things that he did say that I think was very, very poignant is that he said that growing up, something occurred. I think he said he was around 9 years old when his father hit his mother and punched his mother in the face and drew blood. And that particular incident scarred him for the rest of his life. He said that it never left him. It never left him. And because it never left him, what he did was he's carried that paradigm. See, that's a part of the cognitive development. It's a cognition. He carried a cognition. A cognition is a way of thinking. Now, Will says that the way he thought was that he did not protect his mother. That cognition ate away at him. And it came into fruition again last night. That cognition that he had never dealt with. That cognition that he thought that he wasn't good enough and to stand up to his father. Well, we have to understand, not saying that it was right, but that's what they did back in those days. There was a lot of physical violence in those days. And it was that physical, and I'm not saying it was right or wrong, it just was. And it wasn't just in black families. Come on now, it was not just in black families. It was the way that they carried things and they took care of things. Women understood it. Ask your grandmother. Your grandmother was probably one that experienced some of that. Your grandfathers experienced some of that. Why? Because it's the way that they handled things back in those days. Not right or wrong, it's just the way that it was. And so Will Smith, he carried that, and through the process of time and the feminization of our culture, his father has been made a perpetrator, a narcissistic personality that has misogynistic overtones, abuser. Anytime that any type of masculinity is is seen as something negative. It's seen because the whole idea is to emasculate masculinity. Now, I'm not justifying any bad behavior. I'm sustaining that masculinity is an important aspect of human development. It is an important part of human development. So this entanglement that took place last night is far reaching beyond just what happened last night. We know that, don't we? Because the entanglement that took place between Jada and their son's friend says that, and I received a text today that someone says that to me that okay, so she had an affair, or she called it an entanglement, but Will had one first. So here we go with the tit for tat. The tit for tat. But here's the thing. Here's the difference. Even if they've had an agreement on how they were going to run the affairs within their marriage, because every marriage has a right to do that. Whatever their agreement was relative to any extramarital activity, that's for them. But one thing that is for sure that I have not heard of, I have not heard of Will having an affair to the degree and the exposure that we've seen with Jada and the young man. So if there was an affair, we didn't see the shame, the guilt, the exposure, the uncovering that with Will that we have seen with Jada. Now, masculinity. Let's get back to it. Masculinity. Masculinity has to do with penetrating, piercing, inserting, right, and injecting. That's what masculinity is meant to do. Okay. Now, what Will Smith did last night may appear to be masculine, but it was not. It was not. It was feminine, and here's why. Because what feminine does is it nurtures, it incubates, it secures, and it protects. Here's what happened last night. That Chris Rock told a joke, and the joke was received fairly well, considering. Some people laughed, some didn't, but Will did. He laughed, but Jada did not. Here's the masculine piece. Jada's reaction was masculine. She inserted her dominance over Will, and Will received that dominance and reacted to that dominance and went up and struck that man. He assaulted him. Now, and some people say, well, there's never a reason to hit another person. There isn't. There may be. Some will say that there is, but I would say this. That was not the place. That was not the time. Now, I think a lot of it came from Will's unresolved issues from childhood. It always goes back to childhood. Will was still, when he saw this happening, he saw what was happening to his mother all over again. So he reacted to what he saw, and what he did was what he wanted to do to his father, but was only 9 years old and was not able to do it. But this time he's 6'2", 200 pounds, and he's getting ready to handle a guy who's 5'9", maybe 145 pounds, almost 50 pounds lighter. So this aggression that Will demonstrated was not just toward Chris Rock, it was toward his father. Will even says in his book that when his father was near death, and once he had to take his father to the bathroom, he said that he thought about and considered throwing his father down the steps in retribution to what he did to his mother. He held on that long. So if he held on to that long, rest assured, it's that same dynamic that took place last night. Same dynamic. Same dynamic. Now, someone will say, well, Chris crossed the line. I don't know where the line is in stand-up comedy. Everything is fair game in stand-up comedy. But like all sports, it's being feminized. Football used to be a very violent sport, but it's being more, pretty soon it's going to be two-hand touch. The NBA is being basically compared to the WNBA, and they're saying that the WNBA should be paid equal compensation to the NBA. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? There's no comparison to the two sports, right? And it goes on and on and on. But the bottom line is this: our culture has become feminized. And anytime masculinity rears its ugly head, it's either labeled narcissistic or misogynist. No, it's masculine. And the reason why you don't understand masculinity is because you haven't experienced masculinity. So often I speak to people and they're not used to a masculine voice. There are men that are not, there are males that are not accustomed to masculine voice because they were not reared with a masculine voice. They were reared with a feminine voice. So they side with feminine voice before they will to a masculine voice because it sounds more like what they were raised with and what they were accustomed to and what they learned to agree with. So they sound feminine. They think feminine. And that's because they lack the intellectual and the mental development. And that's why a father is needed in the home with his sons to help instill into him masculine mentality so that he thinks like a boy, a male, and then a man. And so when a man speaks in a masculine tone, he's being denigrated, he's being blasphemed, he's being downgraded, he's being name called, you name it. I get it all. I hate women. No, I love women. But I understand the difference between a girl, a female, and a woman. I know the difference. And it's the 8 areas that I've just shared with you a little earlier. I also speak about malehood. Boyhood, malehood, manhood. And I speak to manhood because I want to speak to the man in our boys and in our males to encourage them to step up in the areas that need be. So when we look at what happened last night, we saw a man, Will Smith, operating from a feminine paradigm. It was a feminine paradigm. His feminine paradigm took signal from Jada's masculine femininity. Now, I know people say, well, you can't speak to anybody's family when you're taking joke, when you're doing stand-up comedian. Stand-up comedians, when they do jokes, everyone's someone's family member. And everybody has situations in their family. But that's not what the comedic act is about. It's about helping you to laugh and to see humor in the dark side of life. Because sometimes that's all you have. But to sit down, there's a Bible verse that talks about sitting down by the river, and there we just sat. And that's what we do when we have sat down in our own muck and mire, in our own paradigms of lack, of not being enough, and we sit there. And what happens is when we hear someone come by and they say something about and touch that button, we get upset about it and we have some type of feelings about it. And as a result, there's someone saying that we need to address that particular individual because of this, that, and the other. No, what we need to do is to look at ourselves. We need to look inwardly and to see what's going on with us as to why that triggers us. Why was Jada triggered by that joke? Oh, she has health issues. Well, if that's true or not, those are her issues. We owe her nothing relative to anything that we are supposed to guarantee her relief from that. She has to deal with that. As we all have situations in life that we have to deal with. Jada's not excused. She's not a comedic leper that says that a joke can't be said about her because she has alopecia. And I'm gonna be honest, I've seen alopecia. Alopecia is bald spots. I have not seen bald spots in Jada's hair. I've seen a short haircut. Now, I could be wrong. I'm just telling you what I've seen. I have not seen what I've seen when I've seen alopecia. Kind of reminds me of Michael Jackson and his vitiligo. I've never seen it. All I know is he began to change his color. And what that is it goes back to childhood. There's some unresolved issues there. We knew that with Michael. There's unresolved issues with Jada. Yes, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. So the bottom line is when we start talking about what Chris Rock did his job. He did his job. That's what he did. And someone say that Will smacked the man who said something about his wife. Whoa, hold on a second. Now, if that's the case, and Will smacked the man who said something about his wife, where was his wife when she was having the entanglement? And I'm told, Will started. He had an affair. Well, I didn't see Will flaunting it like that because I've seen Jada on red carpets with Alcina, and I've seen her embracing this young man. Now, keep this in mind. Hear what I'm getting ready to say. One of the biggest violations that could possibly take place in a man's life is that his woman have sex with his son's friend. Let that settle in. Men, let that settle in. She had sex with your son's friend who was staying with you, getting help for his addiction and mental health issues. Now, if that was done by a man, where would he be? But we think that women, black women especially, don't have to be held accountable. I'm wrong because I'm speaking to this tonight. I'm being insensitive. No, I am being very sensitive. Very sensitive. Sensitive to what is right. The thing that she did was an offense to manhood. And I would suggest and submit for your consideration that was part of why he reacted the way he did, because he was so ashamed of not doing anything to Alcina that he said, I will not let that. It happened with my mother, and now it's happening. I will not let it happen again. And when he saw that Jada was triggered, he reacted. Now, I am not saying he's wrong. I'm just making an observation. That's all. I'm making my observation. And so my observation says that Will acted from a feminine paradigm, Jada from a masculine paradigm. And I would say that Chris Rock was operating from a masculine man paradigm. He was working, he was doing his job, and he stood up there and he saw a man 50 pounds heavier than him coming at him, and without question had some type of look, because it was apparent that he was not coming to shake his hand. And he stood there with his hands behind his back, and he took that. He took it. He took it with his hands behind his back from a man that probably outweighs him by 50 pounds. So to me, the man in this situation is Chris Rock. It's Chris Rock. Whether you like his job or not, he was doing his job. He was doing what they were paying him to do. And I heard someone say this, that a lot of the times that the hosts and the comedians of the Academy Awards were used to help bring down the egos of these actors and actresses. And so there was a lot of jest being made by the hosts and by the comedians that came up and to present or host the Oscars, to show that they don't take themselves as seriously as some might believe. And so here was an opportunity for Chris Rock to do that, and Will Smith went to a place that we have never seen before. Now, on the night that Will Smith it was his ultimate triumph, his first Oscar, and playing Richard Williams, who he says that he had embodied, maybe he was still embodying at last night. And I'm told sometimes actors have problems releasing some of those roles that they have, they embody, because they really channel into these people and take upon their personality, and it takes time for them to decompress and to release some of that. Maybe Will had some issues with releasing Richard Williams, because that may have been what Richard Williams would have done. But I'm surprised that that's what Will Smith did, because Will Smith carried himself a lot differently over the decades than that. But that's maybe what he's fed up with. The brand, the title of being something and wanting to be something else. I don't know. But I would say this. It's important for us to understand this. And this is going to be tough for some of you to hear, but when we talk about a wife, now what we want to try to do is compare a wife and a husband. You can't do that. A wife and a husband are totally two different entities. They operate and function differently. One operates under a feminine energy and the other under a masculine. That's the proper functionality. That's the proper operational modality. Now, this is going to be tough for some of you to hear. A wife is a woman. In the Hebrew, actually in the Latin, the word Latin, the word for woman and wife in Latin and Hebrew is the same word. In other words, a woman is a wife and a wife is a woman. But a woman is not a female and a woman is not a girl. Now, she has gone through those stages, but she has arrived at the pinnacle of her femininity, and that is womanhood. She is a woman in every area of the 8 areas I've mentioned before. And she's not a girl, because a girl she lacks any development. She has no development. She's a blank slate that needs to be taught, needs to be disciplined, role modeled, and shown how girls are to be. That's called parenting. It's called parenting. The same thing with boys. Boys need their fathers to show them how boys operate, how they function. Now, why is that important? Well, the universe sent you here the way that you're supposed to be, and the suit you have is the suit that was intended by the universe. Whether you like it or not, the universe has said this is the best way for you to fulfill the very thing that you've been sent to do. And so here we have a man, a boy, we have a woman who understands that she's developed in 8 different areas, and so she operates differently than a female. She operates differently than a girl. But what you will see in our culture is we see grown girls, and we see grown, chronologically grown, physiologically grown, developed, but yet emotionally, mentally, philosophically, intellectually, psychologically immature, undeveloped. And it goes with the male as well. But I'm talking about the female in this particular situation. Jada Pinkett Smith was operating from a feminine paradigm, a toxic femininity. It was a joke. It was a joke. That's what comedians do. So now the attack on humor, the attack on stand-up, the attack on comedians means that regardless, no telling what a comedian says, anybody can react anyway because Will Smith did it. Does that make it right? And what's strange is Jada was in the Clumps, and she was in that whole scene with Eddie Murphy. Remember that? In the club with Dave Chappelle? Remember that? Art imitates life. Very much so. Be careful what you wish for. You might get it, right? Anyway, so when we start talking about the idea that we've got to be able to differentiate girl, female, woman. Females need to be disciplined. They need to be taught. They need to be held accountable, just like males need to be held accountable. So when someone says something about women, they're mistaken, because women know how to carry themselves. Women don't do what Jada did. They don't. Females do. And I was told by one of the ladies, one lady, she said that Jada was exercising her options. And I answered that women understand, and wives, because they understand those words are interchangeable, women, wives, they understand that that is not true. There's no such thing as options. Those are only females' ideas. They feel like they have options. That's why marriage today is seen as partnerships. I don't contend to that idea. I don't hold to that idea, because partnerships are two separate individuals who have separate responsibilities within a relationship, And if one doesn't uphold it, then the other has a right to end the relationship. Does that sound like what we're doing today? Yes. But that's a business relationship. Marriage is not a business relationship. Marriage is two becoming one. Two becoming one. It's a union. It's a coming together. It's a melting together, a unification of two becoming one. Now, I have to give Will and Jada props for sticking it out. I got to give them props for sticking it out because they've been through a lot. They've been through a lot. But last night, I mean, if we really look at it, have they not put themselves out there? The alopecia, the entanglement, and then last night, I mean, last night was seen by millions. Millions. So what we've got to understand is a lot of the doing is our own doing. And so we want to look at the devil and look for the devil. Supposedly Denzel talked to Will about the devil. Well, the devil's Will. That's who that was last night. That's who the devil was. Will Smith, fed up with being taken advantage of, and he gave into, and he went up and assaulted that man. He went up and assaulted that man. Now, I know a lot of people are not going to like what I'm saying, but that's fine. One thing that I'm learning about being is this about manhood. You have got to be willing to stand by yourself, man. But see, what we want to do is we don't want to stand by ourselves because we are afraid of being canceled. We're afraid of what females will say about us. We're afraid of them. That is not a man. That's a male. So no, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid because this is my assignment. This is my assignment. I'm supposed to do what I'm doing. And so some people don't like it, but who's going to do anything that everybody's going to like? No one. But so what you have to do is understand and know what you're supposed to be doing. So, women do not operate like Jada. Men do not operate like Will. See, when we start talking about malehood, and I'm going to be talking about this a little bit more, this whole idea of an alpha male is still a male. He still lacks development. He's overdeveloped in some areas and underdeveloped in others. That's why he is an alpha male. And the same thing applies with a beta male. Overdeveloped in some areas and not developed in others. It's still male. It's not manhood. So an alpha male is not a man. No, he's not. He's not a man. He's not. Just like a female who engages in hypergamy or hypergamy, however you want to pronounce it, she's not a woman. Because women don't deal in hypergamy. Anyway, it's a tough pill to swallow. Last night, it was a lot to learn. If we would pick up, actually what we need to do is to put down our own paradigm and to look at it outside of our paradigm. So if you're looking at it from a feminine perspective, try putting on a masculine one and look at it, and vice versa. Okay. Women try to see what Will Smith did in how how much that it violated everything. Now, some people want to say that he was defending his wife. This is what I want to tell you. Wives do not do what Jada has done to Will Smith. And I'll say it again. You can take the girl out of Baltimore, but you can't take the Baltimore out of the girl. And that's not a slight to those in Baltimore, because I've been to Baltimore and I like Baltimore. There's some great people. And what I'm saying is that's where she's from. And she's from the inner city there in Baltimore. It could have been Brooklyn. It could have been my home city of Camden, New Jersey. The bottom line, you can take it out, but it's not. You can't. You can take them out of the city, but in some cases, you can't take the city out of them. Will had to act because maybe she thought that Tupac would have done something differently. I don't know. I don't know what Will's mentality was. I don't know. I can fathom. I can have an idea and everything, but I don't know. But I do know that his actions were unlawful. He violated the law. He should have been arrested. He should have been arrested. But you can do anything to black men. You can do anything to black men and get away with it in this country. And there will be no repercussions. But see, if it was done the other way around, the state would have stepped in and done something anyway, even though Chris Rock said he wasn't going to press charges. But you can do anything to black men in this country, and nothing will happen to you. Another example of that last night. Nothing happened to anyone. Now, you're going to tell me that if Will Smith went up and smacked Jimmy Kimmel, nothing would have happened? Really? You think nothing would have happened? You know better. But you can do whatever you want to black men. Everyone can do whatever they want to black men. This country does not secure black men. And every black man in this country should be saying amen. You know it. No one defends the black man. Not even your woman. Excuse me. Not even females. Women do. Women do. Women are the ones that stand right beside us. Right beside us. Well, anyway, I guess that's all I have to say about it to this point. I'm sure there'll be some more downloads that'll come. But to this point, I guess that's all I want to say about what happened last night. There's going to be a lot of people have a lot of opinions and insights and things about it. I'm interested in hearing them all. I really am. But a woman does not disrespect her man the way that Jada did. If Will disrespected her, I need to see it to the level that we've seen it without seeing it. I haven't seen it. Even if they've had an agreement on an open marriage. The blatant disrespect, I haven't seen it. I could be wrong, but I haven't seen it. If you have, okay, fine. I know I have people hitting me in my DM saying, "Oh, I've seen you. You're wrong." Okay, I've been wrong before, and I'll be wrong again. But so will you. So let's just move forward. Learn from this. So here's what we learn. Is that, and I've heard people say, well, you got to know you got to be sensitive of what everybody's going through. No, here's what we've got to learn. We've got to get developed in the 8 areas that I've talked about. We've got to grow up. We've got to mature, and we've got to develop in those areas. These are the things that I think we should go into counseling about. And start talking about our mental development, our cognitive development, our emotional development, our philosophical development, our intellectual development, our chronological development, and our physiological development. We need to talk about these things, these areas in life, and how things have happened that have affected those areas. Because it's somewhere in life that something has thwarted the way that we are grown, or have not grown in one of those areas that causes us to act the way that we seen last night. This is not a put down. It's an observation. We need to look at ourselves. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes, and I continue to make mistakes. But I understand what areas I need to develop further in. Do you? What areas do you need to look at? Out of the 8 areas, what areas do you find that present the most problems for you? You need to go into counseling, coaching, and talk to someone about that, how we can fix that. I call it mental mapping. And certain things happen in our lives that take up strategic places in our lives. And I do some things with my clients that I help them to identify through mental mapping, or I call it memory mapping, memories that have taken place and that have marked you. And it's those areas that these 8 areas are affected. One of these 8, or maybe more than one. So anyway, I think counseling is in all of us. All of us need to be in counseling or in coaching with someone to encourage us, to strengthen us, to help us to become all that we can be. Well, that's it for this session of the Red Hot Mic. It's a different session tonight, wasn't it? Came on a little late and didn't stay on as long as normal because we cut out some things, right? I think this was a crucial broadcast, right? Entanglement of embarrassment at the Oscars. G. Alpha Palmer, until our next time we come together. Peace.